Imagine watching your entire livelihood, like everything keeping you and your family from starvation, just about to go up in flames.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that is a terrifying thought.
Right, and in that split second of sheer terror, you realize the only way to save it isn't to run away, or even, to throw water on it.
Right.
You realize you have to physically lift that blazing inferno onto your own shoulders and run.
Wow. That is quite the visual to start us off.
I know, it's wild. But welcome to the deep dive on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. If you want to explore more stories where that exact nightmare becomes a reality, I humbly ask that you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop your valuable thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah, please do. It really helps the channel grow. And, well, let's just keep bringing you these really profound narratives.
Exactly. So for today's deep dive, we're looking at a story titled Agni Samadhi, which translates to the fiery grave.
Yeah, The Fiery Grave. He was written by the legendary Hindi author Munshi Premchand, and it's part of his renowned collection called Mansarovar.
So to give you a roadmap for today, we are taking this single, incredibly tragic narrative and just peeling back the layers. We aren't just going to tell you what happened.
No, definitely not. We want to look at the shifting dynamics of a rural household in early 20th century India. And, the devastating mechanics of addiction.
And the absolute limits of human sacrifice, because it gets intense. But to start, we really have to look at our protagonist, Piyag. He's a farmer by trade, but farming is the absolute last thing he's actually doing.
Yeah, to understand Piyag, you have to understand the specific type of escapism he's engaging in. He has entirely abandoned his fields and his family.
Just totally checked out.
Totally. He spends his days in the company of sadhus. These are wandering ascetic monks. They set up camp under a banyan tree around a smoldering fire.
Right, and Piyag just hangs out there.
Worse, he's essentially made it his full-time job to prepare their chelam. He's spending every waking hour smoking potent forms of cannabis, ganja, charas, and bang.
And the source text is so vivid about the internal experience of this. It doesn't just say he's getting high. It describes this like heavenly bliss.
Oh, absolutely.
He gets that first hit from the clay pipe, and he is transported to a completely different world, one filled with music, light, and warmth.
But here's where we have to look at the mechanism of this escapism, right? It's not just about chasing a high.
Right. He's fleeing a horrifying low.
Precisely. The contrast with his physical reality is stark. While he's floating in this drug-induced pseudo-spiritual paradise, his actual home is freezing.
Like literally freezing.
Yeah, the hearth hasn't been lit because there is simply no food to cook. His family is starving.
And the burden of managing that starvation falls entirely on his older wife, Rukmin. She's the one who has to trudge out late at night, sometimes near midnight, to physically drag him away from the sadhus.
Pulling him away from that warm fire.
Yeah, dragging him back to a dead, cold house.
Hmm.
And to him, stepping out of that hive feels like being dragged into a jungle full of thorns.
It's a harsh wake-up call.
It is. And if we translate this to today, the psychology isn't that different from modern extreme escapism. You see people totally neglecting their real-world responsibilities, right?
Definitely. Letting their finances crumble.
Exactly. Just doom scrolling for 10 hours a day or getting completely lost in virtual reality. The medium changes, but that dopamine-driven need to check out while your life collapses, that remains exactly the same.
That's a really good comparison. It's universal.
But I'm stuck on something here. If the provider completely checks out, why doesn't the household instantly collapse? Like, why do they tolerate it?
Well, they don't tolerate it indefinitely. The household structure simply warps until it breaks.
Oh, okay.
And that brings us to the sociology of an agrarian family unit. Rukmin, the older wife, has been holding this crumbling structure together. But she's exhausted.
Right. She can only do so much.
Exactly. And she's ultimately paralyzed by the social conventions of her age and status. She reaches a point where she simply cannot provide. And that creates a massive vacuum of power and responsibility.
And nature abhors a vacuum. So, into that space steps Mis-Milliya, the young new bride of the house.
Right. Mis-Milliya sees the starvation facing them, and she makes a choice that completely shatters the traditional norms of that society. She decides to go to the public market to sell grass and buy food.
Wait, I need to push back on this for a second. Going to the market to buy groceries doesn't sound like a massive breach of protocol. It sounds, like running an errand. Why is this such a big deal?
It's a really crucial question, actually. And it comes down to the deep patriarchal structures of early 20th century rural India.
Okay, lay it on me.
In that environment, a young daughter-in-law's place was strictly within the domestic sphere, often veiled and completely shielded from the public eye of the market. The public square was the domain of men.
So just being there is an issue.
A huge issue. By stepping out of the house, going to the market alone, and engaging in commerce, Mis-Milliya isn't just running an errand. She is publicly usurping the male provider role.
Oh, wow, I see.
She's essentially broadcasting to the entire village that the men of this house have failed. And, crucially, that the elder woman, Rukmin, has failed to keep the family within respectable bounds.
Okay. That context changes everything. It's not just about food, it's about extreme public shame.
Exactly.
But she does it anyway, and honestly, she crushes it. She goes out, cuts a massive load of grass, the text notes, it's more than even the experienced men could manage, and she sells it.
She earns 12 annas.
Right, 12 annas.
And to put that currency into perspective for you, there were 16 annas in a single rupee. Earning 3/4 of a rupee for a day of cutting grass was substantial.
So she really brought home the bacon, so to speak.
Oh, big time. It was the absolute difference between starving for another week and having an absolute feast.
And a feast is exactly what she buys. She doesn't just get bare survival rations. She buys flour, rice, oil, salt, vegetables, and spices.
Really going all out.
Yeah, and she even manages to save 4 annas for the future. Then she comes home and cooks this highly praised, incredibly spicy vegetable dish.
For a family that has been eating practically nothing, this meal is an explosion of flavor and calories. Piyag is ecstatic.
Naturally.
But notice the psychological fallout of this meal. Mis-Milliya, taking control, solves the immediate biological crisis, right?
Yeah.
They're finally fed. But it triggers an entirely new psychological crisis.
Because of the power dynamic.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because she provided the food, the authority of the household shifts completely from the older traditional Rukmin to the young, capable Mis-Milliya.
And this is where human nature gets really messy. I mean, if my family is starving and someone brings home a massive feast, my primary emotion is relief. I'm profoundly grateful.
Sure, that makes sense.
But Rukmin isn't grateful at all. She is deeply humiliated.
Right. It's like moving the main load-bearing pillar of a house and replacing it with a brand new one while the house is still standing.
That's a great way to put it.
The structure might hold, but the friction between the old joints and the new supports is going to generate incredible heat. Rukmin had derived her entire sense of worth and identity from being the manager of that household.
Even if she was just managing its decay.
Precisely. By saving them, Mis-Milliya rendered Rukmin obsolete. Rukmin secretly hoped Mis-Milliya would fail, that she would come back from the market crying.
But instead, she succeeds brilliantly and becomes the de facto head of the house.
So the biological starvation is cured, but the emotional starvation for respect and authority is at an all-time high.
And that psychological shift sets up exactly what happens next. So it's nighttime. Piyag has just finished this amazing heavy meal. For the first time in months, his ego is somewhat restored because his belly is full.
He's feeling pretty good about himself.
Yeah. He decides to head out to the fields to check on the unharvested crops. It's this total false sense of ownership. He did nothing to grow or protect them recently, but now that he's fed, he wants to survey his domain.
Right. Meanwhile, back at the house, Mis-Milliya is terrified to be left alone. So she locks the heavy wooden door from the inside, assuming Rukmin will be back from her wandering soon.
Let's follow Piyag out into the dark, though. He's walking toward the fields, and he's still riding the high from the sadhus, combined with this massive food coma.
Quite the combination.
Seriously. He's actually cheerfully singing a bhajan devotional song. But the song is about a thujini, a deceptive woman who casts illusions and tricks the entire world.
The situational irony Premchand uses there is just brilliant.
Oh, it's so good.
Piyag is singing about the dangers of deceptive illusions while he is literally sleepwalking through his life in a drug-induced illusion, completely blind to the very real emotional earthquake that just happened in his own home.
But the illusion doesn't last. Just as he's lost in his song, reality violently crashes in. He looks up and spots a massive roaring flame.
Yes, someone has set fire to the harvest hut, the Madaya.
And this hut is sitting right next to their precious, completely dry, unharvested crops.
The psychological whiplash he experiences in that moment is profound. The shock of seeing his ultimate survival burning in front of him instantly obliterates the drugs.
Like sobering up in a millisecond.
Exactly. The adrenaline completely overrides the cannabis.
And in that split second of terrifying clarity, a very dark suspicion crosses his mind. He immediately suspects that Rukmin might have started the fire.
Which honestly makes total sense.
Yeah, based on what we just discussed about her humiliation and loss of status, it tracks perfectly. She was displaced. Burning the harvest would destroy the very resources Mis-Milliya was now managing.
It's a deeply cynical thought, but entirely plausible. However, Piyag doesn't have the luxury of standing there investigating arson. He has a catastrophic physical reality to deal with right then and there.
Which brings up a very practical question that hit me while reading this. I mean, it's a small thatched hut. Piyag is carrying a heavy bamboo stick. Why doesn't he just run up to it and beat the fire out?
Just smash it?
Yeah, smash the hut to pieces before it spreads.
It's a logical question. If you aren't familiar with the specific physics of that agrarian environment, we have to look at the materials involved.
Okay, school me.
This is a thatched hut made of extremely dry, sun-baked grass. It is sitting directly in the middle of a field of crops that are also bone dry and ready for harvest.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, hitting it would be the absolute worst thing you could do. Beating a burning thatched roof with a heavy stick wouldn't smother the flames. It would act like an explosive impact.
Like fireworks.
Exactly. It would scatter thousands of burning sparks and flaming embers directly into the dry crops in a massive radius. The entire field, which is their absolute only means of survival for the coming year, would ignite in seconds.
So you can't fight the fire where it is.
No. The fire must be physically moved away from the fuel source.
Which sets up one of the most cinematic, adrenaline-fueled moments I've read in a long time. Piyag realizes he has to move a blazing building.
It's wild.
So he takes his long, thick bamboo stick and he jams it right under the center of the burning thatched roof to use as leverage.
It requires a superhuman physical feat. He uses that stick to lift the entire blazing structure straight up over his head.
Over his head.
Yeah. And then, balancing a literal inferno on a pole, he begins to sprint toward the village, desperately trying to keep the flames away from the dry crops bordering the path.
If you put yourself in Piyag's shoes, I mean, the sensory reality of this is pure nightmare fuel. He's running as fast as he can, trying to navigate these narrow, uneven dirt paths in the pitch dark.
And the wind generated by his own running is feeding the flames right above his head.
The heat has to be unbearable, and burning pieces of dry thatch are raining down on him. They are falling onto his bare arms, searing his skin, literally burning him alive as he runs.
But he refuses to drop it.
He doesn't stop.
No, because he knows the physics of the situation. If his arms give out, if he falters for even a second and that burning hut slips and falls onto the dry crops beside him, everything is lost.
They'll starve.
His family will starve to death in the coming winter.
Right.
It is a literal race against total ruin.
What's so striking about this moment is the tragic irony of Piyag as a character. I mean, for months, this man has spent every waking hour avoiding any form of hard labor.
Completely useless.
Right. He wouldn't lift a finger to help his starving wives. He sat under a tree smoking. And now, suddenly, he is quite literally carrying the burning weight of his family's survival on his shoulders.
The symbolism is undeniable. The heavy burden of responsibility that he spent months running away from has manifested as a literal fire he is now forced to carry.
He only finds his ultimate work ethic, this, deeply hidden well of strength, when he is staring down undeniable ruin.
It's such a powerful lens for looking at human behavior.
Oh, for sure. We see this all the time. We ignore the warning signs, we put off the difficult conversations, we avoid the hard work, we wait until the absolute last possible second to fix a problem we've been ignoring.
Wait until the structure is literally collapsing to start doing the maintenance.
Exactly.
It's a really resonant human flaw. We rely on the crisis to generate the adrenaline required for action. But the tragedy of relying on the crisis is that sometimes the crisis demands more strength than your body actually possesses.
Which brings us to the climax of the story. Piyag is running, he's burning, his lungs are burning, he reaches the very edge of the fields. He is agonizingly close to safety.
But his body simply shuts down.
The strength completely leaves his arms.
The center of the burning hut, where his bamboo stick is lodged, starts to give way. The blazing structure is tipping. It's about to crush him.
And now, in this fraction of a second, he has a profound choice to make. He could easily throw the burning hut to the side, jump away, and save his own life.
But if he throws it to the side, it lands on the edge of the crops, and the harvest goes up in flames.
So he refuses to let it fall on the fields. He stands his ground, fully preparing to be crushed and burned alive to save the food for his family. He makes the ultimate choice.
It's incredible.
But right before the fire can claim him, someone emerges from the deep shadows of a nearby tree. It's Rukmin.
The older, displaced wife. The woman who had been utterly humiliated and pushed out of her role just hours earlier.
She runs out of the darkness, and in a moment of intense, incredibly complex emotion, She actually bows to Piyag.
She bows to him.
Yes. Then she rushes directly under the falling, burning hut and takes the fiery weight from his failing stick onto her own bare hands.
And the moment another human being takes the weight, Piyag's adrenaline completely flatlines. He instantly faints from the excruciating pain and utter exhaustion, collapsing into the dirt.
Leaving Rukmin entirely alone under the fire, she summons some impossible strength and carries the burning hut the rest of the way, away from the edge of the fields.
She succeeds where Piyag's strength failed.
But the cost is absolute. Her clothes catch fire, she is completely engulfed in the flames, she falls, taking an Agni Samadhi, a fiery, sacrificial, and ultimately fatal grave.
This is where we have to pause and really analyze the psychology of Rukmin's actions, because it is the most haunting mystery of the entire narrative.
Yeah, we have to talk about this.
Why was she standing in the shadows by the edge of the fields in the middle of the night?
I mean, because Piyag was probably right. She likely started the fire.
It is the most logically sound conclusion. She went out there in a moment of bitter, blinding jealousy. She wanted to burn away the very harvest that Mis-Milliya was now seemingly in charge of.
She wanted to destroy the wealth that had usurped her.
Exactly. But then as she stands in the shadows, waiting to watch her revenge unfold, she sees her husband.
She sees the addict, the man who neglected her. But he's not neglecting her now. He is performing this agonizing, superhuman act of desperation. He's literally burning his own flesh to save the livelihood she was trying to destroy.
The cognitive dissonance she must have experienced is staggering. She goes from an arsonist driven by pure destructive spite to being utterly overwhelmed by a tidal wave of guilt, awe, and reignited love.
Just a complete 180.
Yeah, she sees his willingness to die, and it fundamentally changes her in an instant.
She steps into the fire to save him. She literally takes the punishment for her own crime, sacrificing herself for the man she was initially trying to hurt. It completely redefines the idea of redemption.
It really does.
She reclaims her position as the ultimate foundation of that family, not by managing the groceries, but by offering her life.
Premchand leaves the exact sequence of her motivations slightly ambiguous, but the emotional truth is undeniable. It forces the reader to confront the terrifying proximity of our darkest, most destructive impulses to our most profound capacity for selfless love.
It's breathtaking, but the story has an incredibly grim aftermath. We have to look at what happens when the sun comes up.
Right.
Piyag wakes up later, the fire is completely out, the crops are untouched and safe. But lying on the ground just a short distance away is Rukmin's half-burnt body.
The villagers eventually discover them. They carry a broken, severely burned Piyag back to his home. He survives the immediate inferno, but the physical and psychological damage is terminal.
Yeah, he lingers for a week, 7 agonizing days before finally succumbing. And the text makes it clear he doesn't just die from the physical burns that ravaged his skin.
No, he dies from what Premchand calls the internal fire of grief.
The fire of grief.
He dies fully comprehending the weight of what she did for him, and likely why she had to do it.
It brings his character arc to a devastating close. The man who spent his life hiding in the illusions of smoke and fire ultimately dies by them, but only after being violently forced to confront the most painful, undeniable reality of human love and sacrifice.
It was a heavy, heavy ending.
It really is. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to turn over in your own mind. Premchand drags us into the darkest, most complicated depths of the human heart here.
He really doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. He leaves us with this haunting reality. The exact same bitter resentment that can drive a person to destroy everything they own, that dark, volatile energy, can instantly pivot into a love so absolute that they will gladly step into a blazing fire to save the person they intend to destroy.
It's chilling.
The line separating our capacity for total destruction and our capacity for ultimate salvation is sometimes just a single burning breath.
It challenges us to examine the nature of our own resentments and asks what we are truly capable of when all the illusions are stripped away and only the fire remains.
A huge thank you to everyone tuning into this deep dive on the Simplified Summary channel. If this breakdown brought you some value, please, humbly reminding you one last time, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop a comment below.
We want to know your theories. Do you think Rukmin definitely started the fire, or was she just a tragic bystander who chose to act?
Yeah, share your thoughts on her final desperate choice. Keep learning, keep questioning the stories you hear, and we will see you on the next deep dive.